Well, hello, everyone. I am Christina Henderson, Executive Director of the Montana High Tech Business Alliance. Welcome to our information session on the Last Mile Technology Training Program at Montana State Prison and Fair Chance Hiring. We are recording this session, and the video will be available online and emailed to everyone who registered. Today, we're pleased to welcome our guest presenters from the Last Mile, Kevin McCracken, Chief Growth Officer, and Molly Kelly, Partnerships Manager. We will be conducting this webinar in a Q&A format with time at the end for audience questions. Some questions have been submitted in advance, and then if you have questions for our speakers today, you can type them in the chat or raise your hand and turn on your microphone, and you can ask any questions that you have. And I will turn the floor over to Molly and Kevin to introduce themselves and other speakers today.
Thank you very much. So I'm Kevin McCracken. I'm the Chief Growth Officer with The Last Mile. I've been working at The Last Mile for the last few months. Previous to that, I had 25 years of fair chance employment experience, both owning businesses and running nonprofits. And when I say fair chance employment, I mean employers that do not consider people's mistakes when they're hiring them. They hire on a skills-based content, and we try to work with people to make sure that they're in jobs that they're going to be successful in. Again, I've been doing this for 25 years, and when I started, it was there was no fair chance or any kind of way to do this in a way that was meaningful. So I'm just really grateful to be here to talk about The Last Mile and what we're doing.
So, hi, I'm Molly. I'm the Partnerships Manager for The Last Mile. I'm also a graduate of the program from Indiana Women's Prison. So I spent 3 years there and went through the Last Mile program and graduated in October of 2020. I always want to say 2021, but I know that's not right. But came home in January of 2021 and then came to work for The Last Mile in April of 2021 as a returned citizen advocate. So I worked very closely with all of our graduates and alumni coming out of the program and helping them to find tech positions or to pursue whatever dream it was that they were looking for in their careers.
My name is Jason Ho'omalu, and I was a participant in the very first Last Mile program here in Montana. We graduated in October, and I was released right after that. And since I've been released, I've been working closely with The Last Mile. I was assigned a reentry advocate, but he's not the only one that helps me. Literally everyone from the program that I contact, I see Molly all the time on, and Kevin as well. But I've been actively looking for work in the tech industry, and I'm just excited to be here, and I'm glad that this is something that's happening. I also want to mention that the Montana High Tech Alliance, Christina was there on the day that we started, and she was also there the day we graduated, and she has been working closely and following this program. So yeah. Hi, everyone.
Great.
Thank you, Jason. All right, I have slides, so just tell me when you want to advance.
Excellent. So just a quick anecdote about Jason and myself. I actually was at the graduation in Montana, so I got to see Jason graduate the program, and then he immediately got in contact with us when he got home, which is one of the best pathways to success, along with securing a job that is a sustainable job. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And Last Mile offers a few different types of partnerships, including hiring and apprenticeship partnerships, as well as content partners. We can move slides. So it's important that we share our values with our potential partners. One of the biggest things is that we really want to offer our students and graduates the opportunity for professional growth. All of our alumni are justice impacted, and we use different technology tools to do that, including Udemy Academy. We now have a relationship with Formation, and this is alongside with our inside learnings in classrooms inside of Department of Corrections facilities. Really, the goal is for us to disrupt the system of mass incarceration by in-classroom curriculum and course material to prepare our students for meaningful employment in this modern job market. As we're seeing in California and many other states, the opportunity for software development and QA is massive. Currently, we're looking at about 390,000 new jobs in California alone. In those two categories over the next decade, with the largest amount coming in the first 3 years. So we really work with our teams to create a, a curriculum and a culture that will encourage our students to continue to learn and develop new skills along the way. And we work with our reentry staff, volunteers, and our community to make sure that they get that support when they get home. Move slides. Um, there are massive benefits to fair chance employment. I mean, the obvious ones we laid out here: social impact, innovative problem solving, an industrious workforce, and non traditional perspectives. It was federally established in 1975, and the factors that they use are the nature and gravity of the offense or conduct, the time that's passed since the offense and or completion of the sentence, and the nature of the job that is sought. And in kind of more layman's terms, really what that means is, does the job actually relate to the crime? And if not, do their skills match the job that you're looking to place? And if those answers are yes, or then obviously you have the right to refuse the job. If they are no on the first question, then we can work with the skills and make sure that we're hiring in a skills based way. Having the 25 years of experience that I mentioned when I introduced myself, I know from my own experience that we have created in my business one of the most innovative and industrious workforces that I've ever seen. I've been running businesses since I was very young, actually, since the age of 18. And I can say that not only is our business a perfect case study in this, we're in the top 2% of the industry that we're um, in sales, but we've also created an opportunity for our business to hire 75% of our employees from at risk categories, including individuals that are justice impacted. The last mile also follows this lead. 50% of our current employees are justice impacted. So we're not just asking other employers to do this. We're actually, as they say, putting our money where our mouth is and hiring our own graduates into our workforce when they come home. Look at the next slide. So the program and educational overview is key to understanding what we're doing. We offer 3 different curriculums right now. One is an audio video production program. The second is web development fundamentals. And the third is professional development. So all of these we feel like are in line with the current job market. Our web development program and audio video programming are inside prisons. And Jason is an example of a graduate from our web development. He graduated our more advanced MERN programming. And what we really look to do is get our alumni to complete these rigorous programs and coursework to develop their technology skills and really understand how to work with others. And then we use the professional development for leadership and additional upskilling. Audio video programming is our newest addition to our programming. And I know, for example, North Dakota is currently has more audio video technician jobs open than they do people to place them in. So we're going to be looking to open audio video programming in that state as well. Obviously, we're talking to Montana. We have a great relationship with the governor and his foundation. And so, again, we'll probably be looking to expand our programming in the Montana State Prison and hopefully eventually in the women's prison there. You can go to the next slide. So we've got a variety of opportunities that we work with. There's a couple of different ways to become a fair chance hiring partner. One is through just direct hiring, giving us placements that are job opportunities that might work for our alumni. The other way is to work with apprenticeship programs. So as of this week, we're announcing that we are now an apprenticeship program with Tech SF in San Francisco, with the goal of becoming a nationally registered apprenticeship program. So that will offer us the opportunity to place people and get salary offsets for their jobs in the near future. We added some of the people that we've partnered with, including Slack, Plaid, Pilot, Adovo, Cash App, Chan Zuckerberg, Checker, Lob, Square, and Dropbox. There are actually a few more, and I'll be presenting to Workday, GM, and a few other companies this month to discuss this opportunity. And we will also be partnering with Cisco to create an apprenticeship program that's completely fair chance based. We can definitely talk more about that if participants have questions. Next slide. content partner opportunities. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is getting top tier education. Um, if any of the members of Montana High Tech have opportunities for mentorship, training, or content opportunities that they would want to share with us, we will gladly, take free licenses for anything that your company is working on, and try to implement it into our teaching, especially for our returned citizens. So one of some of the topics that we cover: advanced coding, entrepreneurship skills, communication training, advanced audio video production, specialized workshop based on industry needs. Some of our partners include Grow with Google, Bank of America, LinkedIn Learning, SiriusXM, Front End Masters, and Avid, who runs Pro Tools. We are also, as I mentioned, partnering with Cisco, and we just created a new content partnership with Formation for advanced software engineering training. And Formation is a really interesting case study. And we'll be trying to place individuals from that program as quickly as possible. It's a completely customized learning process, but you have to pass a test to be at a certain level in your career to get into the program. It includes not only advanced software development and engineering training, it also includes mentorship and job placement. So they work with their hiring partners to not only place people, but to continue to mentor the placements and work with them on continuous upskilling and continuous improvement in their jobs. So it's another just great opportunity to work with the last mile on on the needs for our returned citizens. So we can go to the next slide. This is one of the most important, and Jason can speak to this, how we support our alumni and reentry. So we start our transition planning while individuals are still in the departments of corrections, with transition planning, Grow with Google content, resume reviews, interview preparation, and prepping our students for going to see the parole board. It's important that we really get our students to understand that this is a long process, and that there's no kind of free pass when you get home either. It's hard work. And so the more they can engage in our pre-release programming inside, the better. A lot of it is voluntary, but we do have some very specific Grow with Google courses that are mandatory, and they have to get the certification to move on to graduation. I'm happy to answer more detailed questions about the pre-release programming. But in terms of time, usually the questions take up most of our time in these sessions. So I want to make sure we have plenty of time for those. The other key component is goal planning. So we use a SMILE model: social, mind, body, intellectual, leisure, and economic. We really work on asynchronous upskilling, tech interview and assessment preparation, online portfolio building. We work with our partner at LinkedIn to make sure that their profile and presentation of their own personal brand is where it needs to be for LinkedIn, and continued education programming and scholarships. One of the most important part of what we do is teaching people how to do technical assessments. So on intake and orientation, we actually do a technical assessment. We do a digital skills assessment and training, connection with TLM alumni and peer community, weekly virtual one-on-one meetings with an advocate, strategic resource alignment. I think something that we actually left off this slide that is one of the best things that we do is we do 2 coffee chats a week, and anybody that's an alumni or a staff member can participate in that. And so 2 mornings a week, we get into a group, we do a check-in and ask a general question, and we break off into groups, and people get to kind of share their thoughts about the question. And we found that it's an incredibly strong tool in connecting our community with one another and making sure that we're staying in contact. The ongoing support includes community events, impact measurements, financial literacy, professional development workshops, and speaking engagements. One of the things that we're working on is creating social enterprises. And so when we talk about these ongoing support opportunities, it's not just to, work on professional development for the individual. We also are trying to create an opportunity for, either side work or continuous contract work. We're going to be launching a new dev shop in the next couple of months that will allow our graduates to work with our partners on, either updating, creating new websites, doing special apps, helping with Salesforce development, etc. So that should be launching in early 2024, and it will be all staffed by return citizens. So think of it as sort of an Upwork for RCs, where we can create the opportunity for other companies to ask for help on their projects, and we can figure out the right person to contract for that help. The other opportunity will be a speakers bureau. So we have somebody from the entertainment industry that's come on to do media training and speaker bureau training, as well as advocate for us to be, the go-to for talking about life both in and outside of the system, and how technology training, education, advocacy can help get the major changes we need to the system done in the world. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity on how we continue to support our alumni. And again, the last mile right now is 50% return citizens and 50% hires just from general public. Our goal by the end of 2024 is going to be 75% of our employees are from our RC community. So we can look at the next slide. Okay, we've got some success stories, and I'm going to actually let Molly share a little bit of her story here. I'm going to let people read through this. We'll share this deck afterwards, but I think actually the personal touch is much more important than anything you're going to read on this, hearing it directly from Molly, and then maybe Jason can say a few words about what his experience has been with our support team. Molly?
Thank you. So when I was released from Indiana Women's Prison, I felt very alone at first, to be totally honest. So I hadn't even gotten out of the parking lot of IWP before I reached out to the reentry at the last mile email. And someone immediately called me back the very next morning. The time difference was 3 hours. I was in Indiana and they were in California. And they welcomed me with open arms, helped me get my resume ready. And this was before I came to work for TLM. So they helped me get my resume ready, my cover letter ready, helped me apply for positions as being a full stack developer, and just kind of surrounded me with a community of people that had been in the same position that I had been. So we continue to do that in the reentry side by making sure that people feel very, connected to something. We have a Slack channel that keeps our return citizens together. We also have the virtual coffee, like Kevin said. I got immediately involved with all of those things. One thing I do notice is that the more that people get involved, the higher the success rate is with our reentry team. Jason, do you want to add anything in there?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Like I said, I was just released last month, and I also sent an email to the reentry team on my way home from the prison. I was leaving Montana State Prison, sending an email on my wife's phone, and they got back to me right away. And since that time, I've been working closely with multiple people. I've been assigned a reentry advocate that I meet with every week, but also just people from the program that have succeeded in the past have randomly messaged me on Slack. We have a return citizens channel where we can all talk to each other. And they've been reaching out and mentoring me and helping me get my resume ready, helping me with interview prep and skills. And it's more than that. So while I was in the class, I learned something about myself that I really like to help other people. I didn't know that about myself before. And collaborating with people on tech projects, I realized that, as you work with somebody, you kind of like develop a personal relationship and a professional relationship at the same time. And I really like to watch those people, like once the code starts to click and the technical skills click for them, they succeed. And that's really cool for me to watch. And because of that, and because I learned that I like to help people, I've been volunteering at the Alliance for Youth here in Great Falls. And I don't know if I would have ever learned that about myself if I hadn't been involved in this program. And the reentry team has been spectacular. My resume, we've been working on that, and interview skills, all that stuff. So it's been really helpful for me. Getting out of prison is overwhelming. I just want to say that. And having people there that want you to succeed is something special. So that's all I got.
Thank you both. I want to say, as a side note, and this is part of the reason I do this work, I struggled with substance use in my 20s and spent a fair amount of those years in and out of county jails and rehabilitation programs. And the biggest thing that helped me get to where I am was support from my community and having people that cared, just like Jason talked about. I could have all the skills in the world, but if I didn't have a place to go and a place to feel safe, it was going to be a difficult road. One of the biggest things that I was sort of, fortunate to get quickly was a sustainable job. And I worked in nonprofit for many years before I came back to the for-profit world, and was able to launch a successful business and then eventually landed at the last mile. One of the things that I tell potential fair chance employers all the time is, if you offer the opportunity, you'll be surprised at the results. And I'm living proof of it, as well as Molly and Jason, and also years and years of experience running businesses that have focused solely on building community and creating opportunities for people that needed an opportunity. And I'm always, kind of hesitant to say a second chance, because many of our alumni didn't really get a first chance in life, and I hear these stories all the time. But what we really do at the Last Mile is build hope and opportunity for our alumni to succeed and create the job opportunities that will generationally change the financial situation of their families. So, and that's really what we're doing here. So, Molly, it looks like you have one more thing you want to add.
I do. Yeah. I just want to reiterate that all of our last mile students learn this with no access to the internet. So not only do they learn how to code a very non-traditional way now, but they also learn different soft skills like collaborating with a team, working together to find the information that they need. We learned everything that we learned through videos, books, and working together, which takes a special person inside of a facility to be able to work with different individuals that you may or may not live with at that moment on a dorm. But learning how to code without the internet taught me to learn how to learn, if that makes sense, because I could actually figure out when I was trying to solve a problem, I could go and then I could research it without actually Googling it. So it's just a powerful part of our stories.
So I actually have had the great pleasure of meeting Robert Garcia. He is working at Adovo, and Adovo, for those that don't know, is a learning platform also that is in departments of corrections and county facilities across the country. And we're partnering with them on some content right now, which I'm really excited about. But Robert got to come to our offsite in Indiana this year and just share his experience around going to work for Adovo, the support he got there, and he's becoming quite the star over there. They, because I was kind of joking, well, maybe we'll grab him back for the dev shop, and they were super protective of Robert's position, but he is really become quite the software engineer. And many of our graduates, once they get into the opportunity to do this full time in companies, they end up moving up the ladder. So many of them become senior software engineers, and Robert's on that track right now. And I wanted to point him out just because his overall demeanor, the way he presents himself, and the way that he's worked towards his goals is a great example of the success stories that we have. Oh, he was just promoted. So thank you, Molly. So there we go. So we can move to the next slide. So yeah, next steps. If any of you are interested, we are very interested in having an initial consultation with our team, customizing programs that are tailored to your organization, facilitate hiring or apprenticeships, engage in mentorship or skill sharing, and work towards continuous feedback and collaboration so we get maximum impact from our placements. One thing I do want to say that has come up recently is we are partnering with Checker, the background check company. They are a Fair Chance employer, and they are going to be doing Fair Chance employer trainings through a cohort-based learning model to teach potential employers how to become fair chance partners in their hiring policies. It's the only thing that they ask is that no money, just that they get to walk the company through the first hire, so that they make a commitment to making that first hire if they go through the cohort. So that's another opportunity if anyone's interested. So we like to leave lots of time for questions because usually our entire process really builds a lot of communication. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to everybody. I don't know, Christina, if you have a normal format, you ask people to do it in messaging or raise their hands, but we're happy to stay on and answer any questions that anyone has.
Either way, and we intentionally set up the meeting today to leave people's microphones and cameras on. So if you would like to chime in and ask something in person, feel free to go ahead and do that. John, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, sure. My name is John Romano. I'm executive director of a nonprofit organization called Disaster Central, and we have developed a mobile app in its first iteration, and you know, primarily using Ruby on Rail technology. It's AWS hosted platform. And I myself am a business analyst by training, and I'm quite aware of the, let's say, the intricacies of developing a tech stack, much less, the UI interface and the sorry about that, the UI interface and the back end side of things. And so the question is related to this on the onboarding side of things. And by the way, I just want to say, Molly and Jason, there's wonderful stories, really heartwarming stories. And so anyway, getting back to my talk. So as we've developed this first iteration of the mobile app. We used Ruby on Rails technology. I am a business analyst by training. I'm familiar with developing full stack, solutions and the intricacies of that. Could you speak to a little bit of the onboarding side of things and, how as I understand it, in Montana, your first class has kind of gone through, a training, and you're sort of graduating that first set of students. But, there are really a lot of nuances to this thing too. And so if you could just elaborate a little bit further on the onboarding process, the on-ramp process, and how you would work with someone like myself, as I'm executive director of a nonprofit organization, and familiar with technology, have been involved in full stack development, and how you work with somebody like that in general.
Well, I think there's this could be a very long long answer. There's a few things. I think the biggest thing is that we want to match up. If you have an open position, first and foremost, we want to match up candidates that are going to fit that position. So if it's you're saying you code in Ruby on Rails, you know our candidates have the freedom to learn any other language that they want to when they get out. We have very strong partnerships with some of the learning partners that I mentioned. So if there's a language that they're interested in, say it's Ruby on Rails, which is interestingly enough, the code that I built an application for my former business on, and I very much like because we can spin up the app relatively quickly. We're more than willing to help them down that path. They would work with their advocate to get additional trainings. They would identify trainings, and then, if you were interested in, say, hiring a last mile alumni, we would work with you directly so that you could say to us, "Here's what the job requires," and we could use our pre-apprenticeship programming time, which we're again launching in the next few weeks, to get them the upskilling on that specific language, or kind of however your technology stack is set up. The other thing we can do is if there's other opportunities around, different jobs. Not every one of our graduates wants to work in tech per se, but they may want to work in a technology company doing something else, admin, project management, etc. So there is an opportunity to train in those specific sort of skills as well. And then we would work with you. Ultimately, the goal is to partner. So you say to us, "This is what we need." We say to you, "We have a candidate for that," and then they need additional upskilling before they start, we assist them in that upskilling. If they need additional training after they start, we have an open conversation with you, John, as the employer, and we say, "What else do we need to upskill them with in terms of skills?" And so we would then have a 30, 60, 90-day check-in to make sure that we're moving things along as we promised. And then additionally, the goal is to have obviously 6 months and 1 year because we want them to stay in the position. So really, each partnership is set up uniquely to fit the needs of the employer partner. We want to make sure that you're getting your needs met and that we're providing the best candidate for the job based on skills.
Could I ask, for our three expert speakers here, could you share a little bit more about how the first Montana cohort was selected and the training that those folks went through, and then the skills that they have by the end? We've addressed some of that, but maybe reiterating
Yeah.
how that first cohort was brought together, how many folks finished, and then what skills they are walking out with.
Hey, Jason, do you want to share about the application process?
Sure, Kevin, no problem. Okay, so the application process, they scoured the prisons here, all three of them. I think there were 380 applicants, and they chose 27. There were 21 that started in the class, and then there were 6 on the waiting list, I believe, or no, it was 28. So it was 28 people. We graduated with 17, and we had 3 replacements throughout the first 6 weeks. But the application process, there's a logic test you have to take. You have to maintain at least a year of clear conduct without any write-ups at all in the prison, which can be sometimes difficult, even if it's prison. So the logic test that you take is basically just a word problems. So you need to solve this, and you need to score high enough to understand the logic. And I would like to say that with the programming and the REST APIs and the backend, logic is logic, and it's pretty easy to learn a new language. Since I've been out, I've already learned Django. I've been learning Python, and those are things that are not included in the last mile curriculum. What we do learn in the curriculum is, like Molly was saying, how to learn. So you're given mirror websites of the official documentation for a lot of the modules, and that's what you have to learn with. So you have to really get in there and get your hands dirty. You start out with the front end application stuff. So you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Once you learn that, you start getting into the back end with Express, Node, Mongo, and React. And you build REST APIs from the ground up. You're able to do server calls. You're able to do database modeling, management, all of that stuff. And that really applies well to other languages. So like once I started learning Python, it just came really easily because I already understand the logic. I already understand how it's going to connect to the back end in the future. So with all that stuff in mind and the skills I learned on how to research things, and now I have Google, which is great, but it's made it so I have the ability to take the resources that the last mile has. I've been using Udemy a lot for this. The last mile provides for us, and I can learn this stuff. So if there is a specific language that an employer is asking for, I feel confident that I'm going to be able to pick it up pretty quickly. I mentioned we only graduated with 17 people. So MERN is hard. It's not easy. And some people didn't make it. And that's just, but we still graduate more, like a lot of people. 17 out of 23 is good. And
I will interject that that is an incredibly high number to get all the way through MERN. Many people graduate web dev fundamentals, but getting all the way through MERN full stack without the internet, I'm mind blown. I can't get through it. So I just want to be clear about that. And they do not have access to get cheat codes. They don't have access to like do any additional tutorials. Everything that they learn, they have to do and figure it out within our closed system.
And Kevin, is that completion rate comparable to what you've seen in programs in other states?
It's actually pretty high for the MERM side of things. I mean, it. They had an incredibly dedicated class because I know a lot of residents give up at some point during MERN and just throw their hands up and they're like, I can't do it. And I said that during my speech inside the graduation. I was really impressed, not just with the fact that they got through it, but the overall determination of the entire graduating class and the professionalism that I saw, everything from their speeches to how they addressed me afterwards when they were asking questions. Those guys really paid attention, like not just to the actual learnings as far as technical skills, but to RPD, which is our reentry and professional development programming. They had their speeches well practiced, and everything was like on point. And Jason walked right up to me and was very honest. He's like, "I'm getting out in a few days, man. So what do I do?" And so I said, "Just email. That's the only thing I can tell you. Email reentry; they will take care of you." And here he is on the call with us. So he stuck to this commitment for himself, and we've given him the same commitment. And obviously, we want him to find a job that is sustainable and meaningful.
We had another question that was posted in the chat, and Kevin did answer, but I wanted to voice it so that we make sure to answer it on the chat today. A couple of questions. So first, what are the job placement rates for the released, say after 6 months?
If I'm not wrong, I think it's about 85% after 90 days, isn't it, Molly?
Yes. Yeah. 85% or 83% in the first 90 days, and then it jumps up to 85% after 6 months.
So, and that's keeping in mind that there's going to be people that come home that have other commitments that are really time consuming, or they're working towards additional education, or they're the stay at home parent. They've got other family commitments, etc., caretaking people. So there's a lot of different, and some are just in transitional housing that doesn't allow them to work right away. So we don't drop those numbers off of that percentage. So even if they're unable to work, they still factor into our percentage. So
And the second half of that question, how does the job placement rate compare to prisons that may be offering college courses or degrees or other types of training? Do you happen to know?
I don't, but that is it's a good question for a variety of reasons. One is that we now have a senior data analyst at the Last Mile who's going to be publishing data on reentry as a whole, not just the Last Mile. And we want to be best in class for data collection and publishing on the reentry side of what we do.
Excellent. Derek, did you want to comment?
Yeah.
Can I interject in here real fast? I'm sorry, just real fast. I just do know from just some research, and don't quote me 100% on this, but the placement for the Last Mile alumni compared to people who have been in college courses and stuff is slightly higher on the national average. I don't have an exact percentage, but it's slightly.
Great. Jason, I'm Derek. We've talked. We met at the Last Mile right before your graduation. You went and spoke from the High Tech Alliance. I'm a board member, and I run a software development group here in Montana. And a lot of our development is done overseas. So to be able to have high quality, software developers that are maybe starting their career out, I think this is a great opportunity for people like our business that support a lot of software for small and medium-sized businesses, to have an apprenticeship program. So my question is, can you explain a little bit more about what that apprenticeship is going to look like and how businesses can get on board with that here? Because we're very interested. I've talked to both Jason and Adam from your class about employment, and I've been very impressed with their resumes, their attention to detail and emails and communication. So, and then the second question is, how do you support businesses with continued training and base level training? There's a couple things to the stack that everybody's required, no matter if you're a senior engineer or developer that's coming onto our company, or somebody that's a junior or apprentice. So, those are my two questions, I guess, at this point.
So let's talk about the first one first. So what we're doing right now is two things. We are being added as a registered pre-apprenticeship program in the state of California. So we're going to have learning tracks that equate to eventual nationally registered apprenticeship opportunities. I've got a collection from both the technology side and audio video production that we are going to be focusing on. They include software development, QA, software engineering, app building, or development. So there's a handful of jobs that we're kind of targeting that are going to be high growth jobs, and that are currently in a deficit in terms of hiring versus the talent that's available through traditional hiring processes. So the goal for the apprenticeship is that we get our pre-apprenticeship launched, and we will modify it based on the needs of the companies that are our hiring partners. Two of the most important things are that we get a sponsor for the apprenticeship program. So we're working with Pluralsight and Apprenti to make that happen. And what that essentially means is we will support the companies we are placing the individuals in with continuing education during their placement. And it will be covered by a sponsored program like Apprenti. The other thing for employers that allows is if it's a registered national apprenticeship opportunity, it will allow employers to apply for additional grants and funding to offset the cost of salary. So that is in development. And two of the things that we're doing at the beginning of next year is we're bringing in a vice president of partnerships and innovation who has worked at a very large organization who I can't name yet, but doing this exact work. And so we're going to get this ramped up incredibly quickly so that we can support beyond just the continued education that we already do, our hiring partners with additional grants and additional support around sponsored technology training. A lot of the companies we're talking to, Cisco is a great example. They already use Pluralsight to do trainings for their cohort trainings for their staff. So they're really excited about this because they're basically already paying for this. So for them, it's just an extension of that programming that they might get some of that cost offset for. And the nice thing about apprenticeships is it's not we can actually pick a demographic, and it's not considered, we're not kind of in the same rules, federal employment rules around, how we're hiring. You're allowed to actually have demographics that you choose from, and our demographic would be, justice impacted or returned citizens. So it allows us to place people without the worry of, making it a competitive posting for the job itself. So there's a lot of pluses to this, and Derek, we've talked briefly. I'm more than happy to jump on a call with you, especially as our new VP is getting onboarded in the end of December, beginning of January, so we can lay out a clearer picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if I haven't offered both these guys a job at this point by then. So I'm just trying to find out,
in terms of
strategize the team and a way to support people locally in Montana. And we've had conversations, and I've been to lunch with Adam because he's here in Billings, which because your family's from here. You're from here. Yep. We went to lunch here and discussed this, but I want to know, these are all big name companies you're talking about. These are huge corporations.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the examples for small to medium sized businesses that can be a lower barrier to entry. I
Yep.
get that apprenticeships and the ability to hire people in the bigger corporations, but how are you guys mitigating the barrier to entry to bring people onto teams that are smaller, like ours?
Sure.
And let us be a stepping stone for these people to find what their next path is. That is kind of how I've envisioned it, and I want to know if you guys have the other answers to that, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses in Montana are in the small, medium-sized business range and are going to be asking and wanting to know how they can bring on these people to do web development or do full stack development here in Montana.
So we're in the same spot, the last mile. I mean, it's 40 employees or maybe like 43 now. My previous business, same thing, 45 employees. Adovo's a great example. They're almost the exact same size. And so what we've done with Robert is the continuing education. And so we don't ask an employer necessarily. We don't come to you and be like, oh, well, this is going to cost this. We try to get all of our content for free. So we are partnered, again with Udemy Academy, with Formation is our biggest partnership. And there is a cost to that, but it's really a really low point of entry for what they offer. I mean, I think the regular classes for just anyone off the street is like 18 to 20K, and we're at 2,500, and we covered that, and I'm going to get a grant for our students. So there's opportunity there and that particular coursework I love because it's not cohort based. You learn as you go, and you just have to dedicate a certain number of hours each week to the learnings and being in the classroom. So there's a lot of opportunity there for growth with that relationship. But essentially, what we would do is say to you, what else do they need to know? And we'd work with their return citizen advocate and get that upskilling happening, and do it through our current content partners. And we can ask you, are there particular classes that you like for this?
Yeah,
We'll enroll them
and certify.
and we'll leverage our nonprofit status to enroll them, because a lot of times companies are more than willing to give us that content for free just to put their name on our website.
I love that. I told Adam, and I talked with the class. It's like everyone has to be agile based methodology. And I don't know if that necessarily happens. They work as a team, but that's a basic in our industry. So anybody on our team has to be certified, but that's a cost, that associated with certifying people that. And then if Adam had talked about wanting to be a project manager, so then there would be Scrum certification. These are things that we require anybody that we're bringing on as an apprentice or a junior level person to attain. So just trying to figure out how to get people certified in those things and onto our teams. And then if there's any cost offset for hiring people in your guys' program would be interesting too, whether you guys have those pathways or if that's something that you have other businesses seeking on their own behalf, and how to offset cost of hiring new teams and stuff. Being that my teams are all overseas, it's different to bring on a whole team in the States now. And I think there's a lot of businesses that run off that model. I mean, if you look around our industry, it's very common. So
Yep.
just a couple more.
Agreed. There's a ton of opportunity for that specifically, and we're more than happy to enroll people. And as Molly knows from working with me already, I'm a monster about I'll negotiate. I handled suppliers for my company for most of the time I was there, and I tell them all the time, look, you've got an opportunity here to do something really good, or you can, kind of try to hold on to that money, and we'll look somewhere else. But normally they're very willing to work with us.
Well, great. I look forward to a follow up with you guys to discuss those next steps then.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Molly, did you have something to add?
I did. Yeah. I just kind of wanted to lift this up. One thing that we did in the reentry department when we partnered with smaller companies, more like what you were referring to, Derek, is we would sit down with hiring managers and make an onboarding for the return citizen, the TLM alumni, and actually get them. We have front-end masters, Udemy, Grow with Google. We've got a lot of resources. And then we would make a track on Udemy specific for that job that the candidate then could do to walk through before they got into that position. So they came with something to offer day one. We worked with Trip B really close to do this. Pattern 89 in Indiana actually built these tracks out, which helped quite a bit.
I have a really quick follow up. I imagine that coming out of prison, you're going to need money and stuff. I kind of feel urgency to try to bring these guys on, as you know, I would imagine that time's ticking when it comes to surviving and living, you know, and necessity. If you set up a path like that, how are these gentlemen expected, or ladies, whoever it is that these gentlemen I'm talking to currently, expected to maintain, you know, necessity while and training while, you know, we're waiting to hire them with the skills they need?
Absolutely. So that is something that we have encountered. One thing that we do to kind of offset that is a lot of times when people are doing that, the people that we work through this with, the two companies I mentioned, were actually living in transitional homes. So it made it a little easier. So this would be our first time navigating that, but we can also find ways to support that. I'm
Sounds
not
good.
sure what that looks
I-
like yet.
yeah,
Kevin,
I don't-
anything on
yeah.
yours?
Nothing specific yet, but we can
Right.
definitely. That's a good further discussion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess, yeah, that's.
I
my
wanted
concern.
to ask a question from, I guess, the point of view of HR departments or hiring managers. So, maybe an individual at a company or a owner is interested, but often there are filters set up or barriers that might happen in human resources where they're traditionally trying to filter out folks that might have a history of being just as impacted. What are some of the ways that employers that are open to fair chance employment could maybe tweak their policies or remove some of those barriers so that more graduates from programs like the Last Mile might have a shot at a job and be able to become a good team member?
Well, that's a great question, because one of the things we're going to send out to the participants, or to you to forward to everybody, is a fair chance hiring kind of background check document. So one of the things that we strongly suggest is using the labor law as the guide, and kind of matching up whether or not the offense had anything to do with the job that's being offered specifically. Time, which is a very important factor, especially when we're talking about people that have been incarcerated for a lengthy amount of time. What have they done in that time, right? It's really important to find out how how they've changed, what they've changed. We also recommend that if you're using a third-party background checking um, application or software, that if something gets flagged, that you use a committee-based sort of review of that to make sure that it's that the offense is not related to the job, that there's been time between. One of the things we're offering, starting in pretty much immediately, is employer trainings through Checker. So we'll be working on that as well. But we will share that fair chance background check flyer.
Excellent. And we'll make sure to send out any resources that you have, including the slides and the fair chance hiring document you just mentioned, to everyone who registered, so that they have access to those things too. Any final words in our last minute of the program? Any final things you'd like to say to our guests?
I think I'm good. I think we covered a lot in a short amount of time. Sorry for the difficulty at the beginning. That we use Chromebooks, and it sometimes just is not like Zoom. So
We powered through,
Yeah.
and it's been a great session. So thank you for working through the technology with us.
and thanks for hosting. We're gonna talk about December next with you all, and I know there's some exciting stuff happening. So
There is, and for the benefit of our audience, so the Montana High Tech Business Alliance, as Jason mentioned, I had the great privilege of being there in the early days of the first cohort, and Derek and I and some other members of our high tech community were able to go and visit the first cohort as they were about to graduate. And I have to say, from my point of view, this is one of the most exciting training programs and just programs generally that I've been privileged to be a part of in my 10 years doing this work. It's the hope, the optimism, and the opportunity for our Montana tech community to have access to a new pool of talent, and for returning citizens to have access, hopefully, to a high-paying career with a good opportunity to return is great. So we're really excited to continue to support it. We're going to bring our whole board of the Montana High Tech Business Alliance to Deer Lodge to visit cohort 2 in December. And we hope that others in our community will continue to follow the program and reach out if they're interested in getting involved as well.